All right, let's dive into one of the biggest questions in business, maybe the biggest question. How do you know if a really brilliant idea is actually a winning strategy? Today, we're going to break down a super powerful but simple framework that can help you separate the true game changers from the really costly mistakes. Let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? It's just so frustrating. You've got this bold vision, a super detailed plan. Maybe you've even got a huge budget backing you up. But then, somewhere between that boardroom presentation and the real world, it just fizzles out. The market doesn't bite, the team struggles to execute, the numbers just don't work. It happens all the time. But what if it didn't have to?
I mean, just imagine having a filter, a simple set of questions you could run any big idea through before you commit all that money and all those hours. A way to kind of pressure test your plan against the harsh realities of the market, your investors, and your own team's abilities. Well, good news. A framework like that actually exists, and it's surprisingly straightforward.
So the very first piece of this puzzle is suitability. This is basically the "does this even make sense" question. It's all about the strategic fit. Is your big idea actually aligned with where the world is headed and, just as important, who you are as a company?
Next up, we have acceptability. And this is the human part. You know, strategy isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people. Will your investors, will your own employees, and will your customers actually get on board with this plan?
And the final piece that brings it all home is feasibility. This is the ultimate reality check. It's where the rubber truly meets the road. So you can forget the grand vision for just a second. The question here is, do you actually have the resources, the skills, and the time to pull this off?
And there you have it. SAF. Suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. Look, this isn't just some clever acronym to remember. It's a structured, disciplined way of thinking about strategy. By asking these three core questions, businesses can seriously improve their decision-making and, dramatically increase their odds of actually winning.
Okay, so let's break these down one by one. We're going to start with suitability. The best way to think about this is like a strategic compass. It's all about making sure your proposed direction actually makes sense in the world you're operating in. Because a great idea in a vacuum could be a truly terrible idea for your company in this market right now. So how do you figure out if something's suitable? Well, you've got to ask some tough questions, like are you actually taking advantage of a new trend, or maybe a competitor's big weakness? That's exploiting an opportunity. Or are you responding to some new technology that could wipe you out? That's addressing a threat. And this one is so important. Does this play to your strengths? Does it feel like something your company was literally born to do? That's what leveraging your core competencies is all about. You want a perfect example of suitability? Look no further than Netflix. The challenge was crystal clear. Those little red DVD envelopes were a dying business, and at the same time, high-speed internet was creating this massive new opportunity. Their move to pivot to streaming was a direct response to that reality. Our analysis shows it was a highly suitable move. Why? Because it directly tackled those market forces and it perfectly leveraged what they already had, a powerful brand and a huge list of customers. Okay, let's move on to our second pillar, acceptability. Now, a strategy can be a perfect fit for the market, but be completely dead on arrival if your key stakeholders, the people who matter, won't support it. This is the part of the test that looks at the returns, the risks, and the real impact on the people who are core to your business. And the questions here, they get right to the point. Is this thing going to make money? Shareholders need to see a path to getting a return on their investment. How risky is this whole thing really? Can the company actually survive the potential downside? It's not just about the money. What's this going to do to our brand? Will customers still love us? And maybe most importantly, will our own employees get behind this? Or are they going to fight the changes? Because a strategy that your own people won't execute is, well, it's just a piece of paper. BP's move into renewable energy is a really fascinating case study here. The challenge was this immense pressure from the public and from regulators to get away from fossil fuels. So their strategy was to pour billions into things like solar and wind. Now, the short-term profits on that were tough, but the move became acceptable because it solved a much bigger problem, the long-term risk of losing their social license to operate. For them, it was really a move about survival. Okay, so your idea is a great fit for the market, and your stakeholders are on board. That's fantastic. But now we come to the final, and maybe the most brutally honest test of all, feasibility. Can you actually do it? This is where all that ambition meets cold, hard reality. It's about whether you have the resources to turn a great plan into a real thing. This is the ultimate show me the money moment. Do you have the cash to fund this whole thing?
But it's so much more than just money. Do you have the right people with the right skills? Do you have the technology, or can you build it? Is your timeline grounded in reality, or is it a total fantasy? And can your company, the way it's built today, even handle a project of this size? You know, answering no to these doesn't mean the idea is bad. It just means it's not feasible. At least, not right now.
And to see feasibility in action, you have to look at Tesla. The challenge? Taking on this completely saturated auto market full of giants. The strategy? To build a global electric vehicle operation from the ground up. This was only feasible because Tesla had two critical resources that nobody else did: access to absolutely massive amounts of capital from its stock performance and the world-class engineering talent to actually pull it off. Simply put, they had the money and the brains to make it happen.
So now that we get the three individual components, let's see how they all work together in the real world. Because a truly great strategy isn't just strong in one of these areas. It has to pass all three tests. So let's look at one of the most legendary strategic moves in modern history.
Let's talk about the launch of the original iPhone back in 2007. I mean, this wasn't just a new product. This was a bet-the-company kind of move that completely redefined an entire industry. So let's run it through the SAF framework and see exactly why it worked so incredibly well.
First up, suitability. Was the iPhone a suitable strategy for Apple? Oh, absolutely. It was a perfect match. The phone market back then was full of these clunky devices with tiny physical keyboards and confusing software. They worked, sure, but they weren't beautiful, they weren't intuitive. And what was Apple's core strength? Their entire DNA was about making complex technology simple and elegant. They saw a market that was just begging to be disrupted, and they knew they had the exact skills to do it.
Okay, next, acceptability. And this is where it gets really interesting. From the outside, the risk looked insane. I mean, they were going up against giants like Nokia and BlackBerry. The R&D costs were astronomical. So why was this acceptable to their stakeholders? Because the potential reward was equally huge. For investors, the chance to own an entirely new category was worth the gamble. And for customers, Apple's brand had built up so much trust that people were willing to follow them anywhere. That brand loyalty made a really high-risk bet acceptable. And finally, feasibility. Could they actually build this thing? Yes, Apple had incredibly deep pockets to fund this secret multi-year development. They had put together an absolute dream team of engineers, and maybe most importantly, through products like the iPod, they'd already built these really sophisticated relationships with suppliers and manufacturing partners. They had the money, they had the talent, and they had the supply chain ready to go. It passed all three tests with flying colors.
Let's look at one more game-changing move. This time, it's not just a product, it's a massive infrastructure project. Tesla's decision to build its very own global network of superchargers. This was a strategy that left competitors just scratching their heads. But when you look at it through the SAF lens, it was a total masterstroke.
Okay, so this strategy was brilliant because it checked all three boxes perfectly. For suitability, it solved the single biggest problem holding back EVs, range anxiety. It was a direct hit. For acceptability, yeah, the cost was huge with no immediate payback, but investors accepted it because it created this massive competitive advantage, a moat that locked customers into the Tesla world. And for feasibility, Tesla had that unique mix of cash from its stock and the in-house brainpower to design and build a network that nobody else could touch. It was a perfect SAF play.
So how can you use this? Well, it really just boils down to a simple but incredibly powerful triple check for any big decision you're making. First, ask, is this suitable? Does it fit the market and does it play to our strengths? Second, is it acceptable? Will the people who matter, your investors, your employees, your customers, actually support it? And third, is it feasible? Do we really have what it takes to make this happen? If you can't get a confident yes on all three, it's probably time to hit the pause button and rethink things.
You know, this framework isn't just for billion-dollar companies. It's really for anyone trying to make a smart decision. For a small business, a new project at work, maybe even a big personal career move. It just forces you to be clear and honest with yourself. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this question. What's a big idea you're thinking about right now? And how does it really hold up when you test it against suitability, acceptability, and feasibility? It's a powerful way to bring clarity to the decisions that matter most.